Hey everyone, I'm Tzachi from FlyCode, and this is another episode of the Payment AI podcast. Today I'm really excited to host Esti Levy Dadon. She's a EVP Finance at Fiverr. Hey Esti, really great to have you.
Hey Tzachi, great to be here.
Great, so let's start. Let's maybe start with your background and experience. So you've been in Fiverr for a few years now. Tell us how you started the journey.
Yeah, so I started my professional journey as an accountant. So I studied accounting and business at the College of Management. And then I did the internship for accounting at EY, one of the big four, here in Israel as part of the high-tech sector. So actually as an auditor for a high-tech company, you actually work on audits for companies that are, startups, can be 10 people, and really big corporation like Checkpoint and so on. So I think as a junior in the accounting industry, in the accounting sector, I think the skill that I've learned most and still helps me today is the ability to zoom in and zoom out. Meaning, when you're doing an audit, you get so many numbers, so many papers, so much data points. And you can easily miss the elephant in the room, right? You can look at the picture in the room and really miss the big either issue or opportunity. So in the early days, the ability really to zoom out, to understand the business, to understand what are you looking for, and then to smell the opportunity, to smell the challenge, and then to zoom in. That's something that you learn over the years, and actually today it also helps me a lot at my role. At that point, it was 10 years at EY. I was at 10 years at EY, and I decided that I want to be part of something. I want to be part of a finance team. I want to be part of a company. And the next chapter of my journey is actually started here in this building that we are now recording. So I joined Fiverr, back then a small company, around 100 employees. Fiverr is a marketplace for digital services, founded here in Israel, now a public company, traded in the US. And I've started when we were really, 2 people, 3 people in the finance team, no processes, very old school finance. But I think for me, the shock was that coming from me, that actually finance is not a product, right? Finance is the department helps the company to grow, but it's not the essence of the company. Now, it goes without saying, but as someone that worked for EY, that finance was the product for 10 years, it was shocking. And then, back then, $1 billion company was a dream that everyone wanted
Still
to.
big.
I totally agree. There were times that it felt like it's easy task, but we all know it's not. So because we wanted to build $1 billion company, we needed the infrastructure to do that. It sounds strange, but at the beginning, we've done it only on a high level. So we saw how much cash was processed at a certain months. That's the amount of cash we saw in the bank. If there are not too many big differences, we could close the month. But when you're building a company and you're thinking about IPO, you actually need to go into the details. And I was fortunate enough to have management that understand that if we want to build a company that will go and will be a public company, we need to allocate resources to actually find how do we do the reconciliation between the business and the finance records.
I didn't mention it when we started, but when we started FlyCode, almost 2 years now with this finance product, we interviewed basically around 100 and something people in finance, mainly CFOs and VP Finance, and we spoke with you. This is how we kind of first met back then. And reconciliation was a problem that keep coming up in the conversation that I know firsthand because I was working in fintech for years now, and it's always something very challenging, and every company is a bit different. What are the specific challenges of reconciliation in Fiverr?
So for Fiverr, first of all, it's millions of transactions. So that's the first, and you work with different payment processors, and of course you have sometimes cancellations and sometimes you have refunds or chargebacks, and so that's one issue, one problem. The second, it's not a subscription-based company, right? It's an on-demand. From accounting perspective, the timing of recognizing the revenue is not the time that you actually process the payment. It's not about recognizing the revenue over a period of a month, right, or a year, like many other subscriptions. It's the time that actually the service was delivered by the seller. So these two factors, the first one is actually to reconcile. It sounds easy, but it's not. Reconcile each transaction to make sure that we actually got the money in the books. So that's one challenge. And then the second challenge was, okay, now to translate the cash basis to the accounting basis and to the P&L, right? That actually when you're a company that is backed by VCs and want to go public, you need to follow accounting rules. And accounting rules are not based-oriented. They're not cash-oriented, right? So we had to build this translation between the cash and accounting. So we actually built two systems. One banking system that reconciled the cash, and then the second one is an accounting system that took the information from the banking and translated that into actually P&L.
Maybe give us an example for people that are not that specific or not that expert in reconciliation, how it actually looks. So I'm going to Fiverr, I book now a seller like social media or content writing, and we agreed on the price, and I kind of pay something, they deliver the job, I paid all the tasks now I paid, Fiverr is getting the money. What is the kind of money flow and how you can eventually translate it into the accounting system?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, Fiverr revenue are part, or we're taking a take rate from the transaction. So we're collecting the money, we're holding that, right, for at a certain point on behalf of the buyer to make sure that the buyer is actually satisfied from the service that he got from the seller. And once he's satisfied, we're keeping our part of the amount and then transferring the remaining to the seller. So from cash perspective and reconciliation perspective, you have the processing of the payment, that's money coming in. Then you have the accounting calculation of, okay, what is Fiverr part and what's the seller part. And then you also have the reconciliation of actually the payout to the seller. So and we're talking about millions and millions of transactions, right? So it was a project that took around, I would say, 6 months to build. I know that many companies now are using third parties to do the reconciliation, but back then, Fiverr in general was very was very pioneer. So in the thought of actually you can render services online, that's right, to do an Amazon for services, that was revolutionary to begin with. But also afterwards, in order to do that reconciliation, back then there weren't companies that provided that service. So we actually built it in-house, that ability. And we're actually using that same ability that we built years ago till today.
What was the challenges in this kind of project? Who led the project? How it actually looks in the company day to day?
So we collaborated few departments. It was the product that knew the business pretty good, the engineers that help us actually build behind all the reconciliation, the payment teams that actually they are very familiar with the payment processors and the payment reports and so on, and the finance that knew the accounting need and also the finance need of how much accuracy, the amount of accuracy that we actually need to meet. I think the challenges were that when you're working with so many processors and each one has their different type of transactions, and then to translate all of these into one database that you can actually reconcile. So I think that was the main challenge and the first challenge. I think afterwards was the ability to put controls in place, in a place that you're still in a startup mode, right? You need to remember, that the early days, everyone could touch the code. Everyone could do everything. Now, when you are starting to prepare yourself to be a public company, you need to put boundaries, and you need to have specific people that can actually touch the code and specific people that they can actually see the full picture. And not all the company can be part of that project. So I think these were the main challenges, but it was very successful. I think we built a state-of-the-art reconciliation system that when COVID came and going forward 3-4 years later, and we actually doubled our the amount of transactions that we had within 1 year, those systems that we've built were able actually to support that, and the business was able actually to grow, to do to make that hyper growth due to those infrastructure and foundation that we've built before.
I love it. One, because it shows that every company that is getting serious, mature, it can be a marketplace or a SaaS company, eventually the payment side of it is becoming part of the product. And second, because it wasn't a finance problem. It's a product problem first. And then, right, it's product engineering. It's the balance of, right? It's also customer facing. The buyers needs to see the balance. The people that are giving the services needs to know how much they are getting. So it's really great to see it. I think it just emphasizes over time how much payment and payment infrastructure actually companies are building over time. Is there another example like reconciliation that involve finance, payment, and the product that you've done in the last few years?
I don't think it's a problem, but thinking about that, so becoming a public company, one of the burdens that comes with it is that you need to provide guidance to the market, right? You need to provide guidance. How do you think the next quarter will look like, and how do you think the next year will look like? Forecasting, yeah, exactly. No, it touches both payments, because payments is revenue, let's say, right? Payments is the GMV, it's the money coming in, but it also touches other also expenses and other points. Now you need to be able, in order to build that forecast, you need to have a model that you understand the business, you understand the unit economics, and you can actually understand, and you need also to put some uncertainties, because if you think about the world, right? The world in the last few years is acting crazy, right? So I think, and then when we do that, it's not only about finance doing that. It's finance talking with the marketing team to understand how many new users they can bring. It's financing talking with the product team to understand what new features are going to, are planned, and how it would affect our forecast. It talks about talking with the payments teams, right? If they're seeing something different, maybe changes, whatever, right? Sometimes it's macro changes, right? Maybe the interest rate can actually change the behavior of the. We're talking about. Let's remember, we're talking on-demand platform, right? It's not a subscription that you have some visibility, right? So every change, you can actually see it in the numbers. So I would say that when we went public and when we built our model, it wasn't just a task for the finance team, definitely. It was a task that collaborate with all those departments to understand the inputs, to understand the lifetime value of a user and what actually affecting it, what actually is the unit economic for Fiverr, because it's not only about the top line, it's also about the bottom line that you need to guide. So in general, I think that finance has to be connected. Finance, that's my, I think, best advice. Stay part of the business. Always understand, to always talk with those different departments that maybe you don't see the direct connection, but there's always a connection. Talk with them and try to see how you can help them from finance perspective and how they can help you to do your job better.
What really surprised you in the forecasting? Like things like, I don't know, in the last few years, things that you are saying, I cannot believe the impact of this specific thing had on our forecasting. So you mentioned the interest rate and maybe other stuff, but is there things that are like maybe for other teams to think about when they are doing forecasting, maybe they are not giving them enough attention?
I can say on the positive side, when COVID started, so the first 2 weeks the world was in shock. And everything for 2 weeks, we saw decreases like crazy. And then when people were actually at home, they saw the opportunity of, okay, you can actually make money online through a marketplace like Fiverr. And then we saw the acceleration that actually now the ability to forecast that is not, it's not something, COVID is not something you can forecast. But over time, you understand that even if you're on demand, history does have, you can actually, you can build the future based on the history. If you look at those numbers, if you see changes, you should actually investigate. You should try and ask the question, what happened? Let's look at the different funnels if something happens. And we learned over time that usually, there is a reason, and you can find the reason, and there is seasonality, and there is ability to forecast, even if you're on-demand million transaction business.
There is a famous letter of a Fiverr CEO, Micha Kaufman, that he wrote a couple of months ago about AI, like being AI first, the mentality of the company. It's probably part of a trend of a few CEOs writing about it, like Shopify. I saw Airwallex recently. How do you feel in the day-to-day the impact of this kind of, like, the AI changes on your day-to-day and the mentality of the company?
So I think for us as a company, we don't want to lay back, right? We don't want to lay back. We always want to be on the front of everything, of technology, on the front of the new needs out there, on the front of every tool that we can use. And we saw that our ability to engage with tools actually helped us when we had hyper growth. So we moved ERP system, and we moved to a different procurement system, and we moved to FP&A and budgeting system. So every tool that is out there and can help us, we definitely have the need to see how we can actually implement into our job. Now, from AI perspective, so as Fiverr always been pioneers in everything, so also in AI, we're one of the first to say this is very interesting. We used AI a few years ago before we knew it was a common name, AI, right? So we built tools for Fiverr for logo design and so on for AI, but also in the internal needs and processes, we are being encouraged to learn. We're being encouraged to try. We're being encouraged even to fail, but to still continue and to be the first and to be the best. And I think that's the bit to allow that as a company, and to allow also to fail, because we know that I can tell you from finance department, there aren't still many very good tools for using AI for finance, because in finance you will need to be very accurate, and it needs to be discrete, right? It can't be shared with the data cannot be shared or be exposed to be shared, and you have your specific needs as a company. But still, we are being encouraged by Micha, and also definitely for me, to my team, to try and to learn and to engage. And if something is not working, that's fine. Okay, we tried, and that's fine. Let's try something else, but never lay back.
It's interesting what you're saying about the maturity of AI tool for finance team. We work a lot with finance team, but again, it's interesting to understand, is there the core finance team, things like forecasting, budgeting, ERP, which is kind of core system of record. I think it will take time, and maybe their AI will be on the features and they will probably come from the platform themselves, like from the native platforms. To other tools that are probably newer or changing different processes that are related to finance, but not directly to the finance department, there might be more ability to adapt. You mentioned the process that as a finance team, as a company, you constantly evolve with new system like ERP, budgeting, forecasting, and more and more. Can you describe this process of evaluating a tool actually look like from a finance point of view?
Yeah. Sure. So first, you need to identify the need and the issues, right? So first, what do we need, and what problems we want to solve, and then to understand what systems are there out there. And sometimes there aren't, and then you decide just to build something on your own. That also actually happened in the past for us, that we couldn't find the platform that actually meets our needs, and we built it. We decided that it's worthwhile for us to invest and build it in-house.
This is the reconciliation example?
For example, procurement, example.
Okay.
It was another example that we've looked into different platforms or softwares, and each one had a different issue and did not meet one of our needs. At the end of the day, we decided to go with something that we will build based on the processes that we have. We didn't want to change the process for the system. So once you understand the needs and you understand the issues, and you have or the wish list of your things, and then you do market mapping of what systems are out there, and then we start to rate them and to understand and give them rating based on are these actually meeting our needs, are these solving our problems, and if not, it's okay, and also not to take anything. Also, that was a decision. So, for example, from budgeting perspective, we implement a platform only a year ago, yes. So after we were a public company for a few years, we still used Excel, right, for budget, which sounds crazy, but that was Excel at that point. We did not find any other system. So we tried to find, I think 5 years ago, we looked at the market, we couldn't find anything. We've decided, okay, we won't push it just to say that we have a budget system. We'll just stay with what we have now and see how the market develops over time. After a few years, we were able to find the right system for us. So I think when you're looking on, when you're touching on finance softwares or platforms, you need to, accuracy is very, very important. Being able to have controls over the system. So as a public company, for sure, we have compliance that we need to meet, like Sarbanes-Oxley. But also as a private company, at the end of the day, because you have so much sensitive data, you have to have the controls and making sure that you have the right permissions. Once, let's say that you have a wish list of softwares, then we usually engage with other departments that also relate to that, to see if they have the need, if we need their help to implement the software, and to understand if there is something from business perspective that we've missed. I think if we're looking at the finance world of systems, in the past, it was SAP or Oracle, right? It was one system that you had it all. You had the procurement in that system, you have the budgeting in that system, you had the ERP, even HR. I mean, even, right, the employees' records. And then when all the cloud softwares came out, then that actually process is broken to so many systems, right? So now if you think about it, there are probably, as a finance team, we're using at least solutions. That's also challenging. And I think maybe at this point, from AI perspective, I think there is an opportunity, and I know that there are many companies that are trying now to do that, is actually to collect the data from all of those systems and to build like high-level table that you can actually get the data from each system, and then you can actually get you can get one source of truth that actually underneath there are many systems.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a process that I see more teams are doing. Eventually, it will be a race for the system of record, like what will be the system that will control and how AI can really connect or build on top of this system to really activate it, other utilities for the finance team in general. So it's interesting who will be in the race to kind of, there are still,
Yeah, it's still early days.
We spoke about AI before. What are the challenges today as a finance team that you are looking at AI? Like you said that the maturity of AI system today is not quite there, but at least what are from the challenge point of view that the finance department looking?
Yeah, I think, finance departments are known as doing tedious work, repeatable work, right? So every month you need to close the months. Every day you have to reconcile cash, and you need to reconcile collection or to make payments. So I think there are many opportunities of tasks that are repeatable, that are actually AI opportunity. That being said, I think looking at the tools out there, I think those tools are still in the building process. I can't say that I think in other areas at Fiverr, we were able to implement AI faster rather than the finance team. But again, I think that's still there's definitely opportunity there.
Probably only a maturity stage of doing it, because the opportunity there is tedious. Sometimes I hear from finance team that it's hard to actually maintain employees over time, especially the ones that are doing the manual work behind the scenes that is necessary every month to do. So yeah, probably the next frontier. If you are hearing it, there is still a huge opportunity for enterprise.
Definitely. Talk to me.
Let's speak about acquisitions. So Fiverr is a public company, so you must have some experience there of a past acquisition of a Fiverr in general. How do you see the process of public a company acquiring smaller startups?
Yeah, I think so. We have, I think till now we did a bunch of acquisitions at different stages. I think, and it also connects to Fiverr, right? But I think the ability to stay at that startup mode and being able to have velocity and work fast and execute fast and not to get stuck at the corporate process level. I think as a company that has been acquired, it's definitely challenging, but it's also challenging to balance that when you're a public company that's still on a growth mode and still wants to grow fast. So I have to say that there's no miracle recipe how to do acquisition and to continue to have that startup mode with not over putting processes over companies that are being acquired. But I think we got it after few attempts. We got to the point that we're giving enough freedom to the company that it's been acquired in order to act, but still have like overall oversight to see that things are not getting out of control. But I think, again, as I said, I think that as a CFO, I think usually, in the past, CFO always looked at his role, his role was to look what was in the past, maybe, and maybe to talk what might happen in the next maybe quarter. Today, the CFO, I actually read somewhere that it should be Chief Value Officer. So today, the CFO actually needs to help build a strategy for healthy growth, meaning, or to be able to build this unit economics that is healthy enough to grow on the one hand. On the other hand, not to overkill it and then finding yourself in a company just burning cash, right? So I think in the past, if you take 10 years before, or if you look 10 years back, growth was everything. And then after COVID, profitability definitely became something that the investors are looking for, even in the early days, right? No, I'm not talking about the first 5 years, right? But if you don't have trajectory to make money, real money from the business, then you'll have an issue to raise a capital at a certain point. And I think from that perspective, the CFO role actually changed, because it's not only about, okay, I'll put the controls here, I'll have compliance with reporting, but it's also how do I help the business, or how do I'm part of the strategy of how to build a company that will actually have value output at the end, meaning being profitable.
Yeah, we are selling to CFOs. And it's interesting to see this shift. Like, even when we started and we spoke with CFOs, and like the challenges were maybe forecasting or cash flow, and today is such a strategic role. Like, on the one hand, the CFO is like the perfect ICP because they control the budget, they know the numbers, and it's like the perfect person in the company to sell to. Who else, right? The CFO, of course, is the perfect ICP. On the other hand, when you're selling them like a revenue-generated tool, it's like interesting. On the one hand, they are strategic enough to take the decision. On the other hand, it's not a classic product of the finance team, like budgeting or forecasting or anything. So I think their role is definitely shifting, one becoming super strategic. And so it's something that we see as well. Anything else that you want to add right before the end?
I think what we learned over the last few years, that nothing is certain. But I think having said that, to be able to be flexible enough in order to be resilient to those changes. So I think when a finance leader think about how to build the team, how to choose softwares to work with, how to deal with helping the business to grow, not to be too afraid from the uncertainty, because I can assure you that's gonna the uncertainty is out there. Just be able to build, and it's easier said than done, but build that flexible enough in order to be able to scale fast, or to actually to be leaner. So I would say, don't be afraid from the uncertainty or from the risks out there. Just think about that. Build your plan B for each scenario of hyper growth, or scenario of the things are going to go slower, and it will be okay.
Why do you think that this advice is relevant the most for finance teams?
Because I think usually a finance leader is a person that is at the past, has been considered as a person that is not taking too much risks. And that's not true. At the end if you're a good finance leader, you have to manage the risk, and you have to manage the opportunities, and you have to be able to allow the company to grow and invest, but not lose control. So I think my advice is to feel comfortable at that point. It's okay to put boundaries, and it's okay to let go, just to have those tools to be flexible enough to move from one scenario to second scenario, because it's going to happen for sure.
That's great. Esti, it was really great to have you. Thanks a lot for coming. It was fantastic.
Thank
I had
you.
a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.